Thanks very much. Look, just wanted to say thanks very much to the organisers of this conference, another great event they put on this year. Also wanted to start by just paying acknowledgement to the Paramount people who are the traditional custodians of the land where we work at Kanmantoo. In fact, the name Kanmantoo itself is derived from a Paramount phrase, Kungatuko, which actually means different speech. Such was the importance of the area as a trading hub between the Kaurna, Paramount and Ngarrindjeri nations. But also reflects an additional linguistic group that moved to the area in the 1840s, that of the Cornish miners that settled there to extract the newly discovered copper fields at the time. And fast forward another 180 years and copper is still being mined from the Kanmantoo area, this time in its latest incarnation, the Kanmantoo Underground. And the start of the Kanmantoo Underground couldn't come at a better time as the world races to decarbonise through electrification. But regardless of what sort of battery technology we hear about, so we talked about graphite earlier, obviously the headlines are all lithium. The reality is, regardless of that technology, we will need copper to decarbonise. But where do you go as an investor to get exposure to pure play copper? Now, Oz Minerals obviously gone. DeGrussa Mine WA has shut. 29 Metals up in Queensland is literally underwater, flooded at the moment. The reality is on the ASX, there is very little exposure to pure copper producers, but exactly what Hillgrove does offer through the restart of the Kanmantoo project. So for those that aren't familiar with Kanmantoo, Hillgrove operated as a series of open pits between 2010 to 2020. We produced around 140,000 tonne of copper and about 55,000 ounces of gold. It's located only 55 kilometres from here between the townships of Murray Bridge and Mount Barker. Over the course of the last 3 years, we've been drilling below the base of those open pits that were mined to determine the viability of an underground operation. Earlier this year, we commenced operations, and we are on track to produce copper early in the new year, which will make Kanmantoo Australia's next copper producing mine. Been a really transformational year for Hillgrove Resources as we've gone from explorer and now on the verge of production. So when we spoke here at the conference last year, copper industry was really just seeing signs of recovery after the price really fell away quite badly in the middle of 2022 and all but scared away most investment that was available for copper juniors trying to advance their projects, including ours. But fast forward a couple of months, into early 2023, we released a feasibility study. It demonstrated we had an underground project that could throw off a couple $100 million in free cash flow over the initial 4 years with plenty of exploration opportunity. On the back of that study, we sought $38 million in equity funding and we restarted the project. We quickly got up to our initial starting development rates on a secondary ventilation. A couple of weeks ago, we finished the installation of our primary vent, and that enabled us to deploy additional equipment, additional people underground, and we've seen the development rates increase accordingly. While this is going on, we also continue to drill. So we've drilled about another 25 kilometres worth of drilling over the past 12 months. This has been a combination of both resource expansion drilling to increase the mine life, as well as targeting the initial stopes, so some infill drilling there ahead of stope design. And furthermore, we discovered quite a large geophysical target sitting only about 400 metres to the north, which I'll speak about in some subsequent slides, but really quite exciting. So here we are today. Now going forward, we are in the process next week of finishing off our secondary egress, and that is the last step that we need to have in place before we begin stoping operations later this month. We have been busy refurbishing the process facility there at Kanmantoo. The dry circuits, so effectively the crusher and conveying circuits, will be commissioned this side of Christmas, wet plant in January ahead of copper production shortly thereafter. And of course, as the year progresses, we'll also be continuing to do some exceptional drilling to increase the mine life as we go forward. Just a very quick corporate snapshot. I appreciate this is a technically focused conference, but you never know where there may be an investor lurking. So look, we have a market cap in the order of about $126 million at the end of last quarter, $25 million in cash, so EV around $100 million. Just worth keeping that in context as I outline the value proposition. The only other things I'll just highlight on this slide is that we do hold about $235 million in carried forward tax losses, and this obviously becomes quite valuable as we get into free cash flow generation from the underground operations. We also hold about $17 million in franking credits, so this enables us to distribute up to $50 million in fully franked dividends at the appropriate time. We're operating, obviously, only 55 kilometres away between Murray Bridge and Mount Barker. As I said, access to market is via Port Adelaide, so it's a 70-kilometre run down the hill. It's actually at Port Adelaide we transfer ownerships. We see 95% of our proceeds received when the concentrate gets down to Port Adelaide, and this quick turnaround of cash just helps keep that working capital requirement quite low. We're located in the beautiful Adelaide Hills wine region, so a real competitive advantage when it's come to recruiting and, I guess, retaining high-quality workforce that we put together. There is no FIFO on our sites. And, of course, working in South Australia, we've got a government that does understand the value that the resources industry brings to the South Australian economy and have been very supportive of our projects and others. And that was, again, recognised in the Fraser Institute's this year's study, which again saw South Australia recognised as a top 10 jurisdiction in the world for mining investment attractiveness. Excellent relationship not only with government but also with the local communities around Callington and Kanmantoo. This comes through 20 years of genuine engagement with the community and really delivering on the commitments that we've made along the way, in particular to our exploration and operations as well as our environmental rehabilitation works. We are regularly recognised as one of the best in the industry with regards to our community engagement. We roll all of our ESG activities up into a sustainability report, and that is mapped to the GRI framework and also aligns with the UN Sustainable Development Goals and the ICMM. Pretty proud of this work and would encourage anyone to go and check it out. All the infrastructure that we need is already in place at Kanmantoo owing to the previous open pit operations. This includes a 3.6 million tonne per annum process facility. We've maintained this in a state that we could restart for very low cost and relatively quickly. So we've kept the whole plant energised. We process water, pump water through the entire circuit 24/7, and on a weekly basis we inch the mill and run the conveying circuit. We hold all the critical spares that we need on site as well to mitigate any sort of unplanned downtime. In addition to that, we have a fully permitted and operational tails storage facility. This not only houses the initial 4-year mine plan, but an additional 3 million tonnes. So as we continue to drill, expand the mine life, we already have the permitted capacity to be able to house those additional tails. Huge workshop on site, again, set up for the open pit, so a lot larger than what we need for the underground works, but a real luxury to have. As I said earlier this year, we started the underground development. We got in right at the base of the open pit, which is 360 metres deep, so really quite quick access to the loads. In fact, we hit the initial ore drive at about 13 metres in from the vent drive there. As we got underground, really competent rock conditions as we expected, and what that means is we can turn these faces over really quite quickly, and that's helped us get up to our planned production rate. A couple of weeks ago, we finished the primary ventilation install. As I talked about, we were able now then to deploy additional jumbo trucks, people underground. That's seen our production rate double since that point in time. And next week, we're finishing off the secondary egress. We've already finished the raise boring, so the red line there, effectively establishing that egress, and we'll just be inserting the SafeScape ladderway next week, and that's the final hurdle to be able to take out that initial stope there shown in green. We're still continuing to drill, a lot of it drilling now. We've got 3 underground rigs really just focused on delineating the first stopes and doing that infill drilling. And what we've been seeing is some excellent results. So on the screen here, headline result, we had about 36 metres, 3.35% copper. The one there on the screen is actually a 2-metre run, about 24% copper. So really pleasing to see tray upon tray of high-grade ore coming out of that initial drilling and firming up those first stopes. The guys on site have also been deploying some really interesting new technology associated with scanning the development faces. So basically it combines hyperspectral imaging with LiDAR technology to be able to quickly go down to the face, take a snapshot and then get out of the way. Keeps geologists out of the way of the line of fire and away from the face, as well as improves the turnaround time, so a lot quicker to do that development face mapping. Effectively works in a number of ways, takes an RGB image, which we then are able to identify the structural features of, and then it uses machine learning to interpret a pixel scale copper distribution, as well as, in this case, aluminium distribution, which helps us really define our bedding. And we combine this with all of the underground grade control drilling, as well as the original exploration drilling, to help create the ore geometry, and that really feeds into the the stope design. So really quite interesting technology has been put in place there at Hillgrove. As we've been coming across ore, some really nice faces, we've been basically taking that ore up to the ROM to stockpile it, and we will do the first lot of crushing this side of Christmas, just in preparation for commencement of the wet process facility early next year. Mill refurbishment still continuing, so we're seeking to refurbish crusher around 18th of this month, and then into wet plant commissioning ahead of first copper. And last week we had 410 roadable containers turn up to Port Adelaide. We've unloaded all of those. These are basically backloaded between Kanmantoo and port to transport around 30 tonnes of copper concentrate down to the port, and then they rotate into a vessel on a periodic basis for bulk cargo. So very much on track at Kanmantoo for first copper in the first quarter of 2024, which is exciting. However, the real value here sits in growing the mine life through additional exploration. So since 2019, we've actually drilled 139 exploration holes. This doesn't include all of the underground drilling that's been going on since May. And of those 139 holes, we've seen 163 significant intercepts of copper and gold. So this is over 100% strike rate, which is an excellent result in anyone's books, and it really just reflects, I guess, the down dip continuity of the mineral system, as well as our knowledge that we've built up over 10 years of operating the open pits. But importantly, each one of those drilling campaigns has also resulted in a material increase in the resource estimates. We've gone from just under 1 million tonnes in 2019 to just shy of 7 million tonnes today, so a 600% increase in the resource estimate. And I guess given every time we're running a drilling program, we're intercepting the copper mineralisation, and then each program we're running is converting to an increase in those mineral resource estimates. It's really quite exciting to note that when we look at a long section here with the pits shown in grey, all of the exploration drilling shown in purple dots there, basically that the black outlines there really sort of just illustrate the size of the current mine life. But you can see there's a number of other areas there which remain open at depth and along strike that have either been previously drilled or mined as part of the open pit operations, and they provide enormous opportunity to be able to expand the mine life just by chasing those down dip extensions. Some of the work that we did from an exploration point of view over the last year, Spitfire just underneath the pit, again shown in grey. You can see the underground outline there shown with the blue decline. The red zone there was the Spitfire load system that we had modelled for the underground. But then we actually did a hole that was some 100 metres away from the nearest drilling, and that intercepted around 45 metres, 1.2% copper. So we've been busy just infilling that to determine whether we can connect basically the red area up to the drill hole and really significantly increase the Spitfire ore zone, which we think will be likely. Additionally, Emily Star, this is another area within our lease. It was an open pit that was mined 2013 to 15, open at depth at the base of the open pits. We've run a number of holes below the pit to demonstrate that mineral resource is still continuing below the base of that open pit that was closed off. And some great hits through there, a couple of runs, 70 metres, about 0.9% copper, and our deepest hole being about 35 metre run at 1.3%. So excellent holes to be able to follow up on. And Emily, being in a separate area, enables us to set up an additional work area, potentially look at increasing the annual copper that we can pull out of the ground, and we have an underutilised plant that convert that into copper and cash in the very near term. But I guess the one that really excites me is Kanmantoo Deep. So this was the geophysical anomaly I talked about earlier in the slide deck. And what it really looks like here, we've got a long section of the pit shown in grey. You've got the decline infrastructure shown in blue there. And in black, we've got an interpreted fault through there. And what we're looking at potentially is a large, low resistivity, high conductivity target that sits coincident with high mags and gravity anomalies as well. That looks like it may just be an extension of the Kanmantoo load system that might have been displaced down that fault. So at the moment we're looking at planning some drilling into that area, and as a exploration target that is looking at 50 to 80 million tonnes, it's quite an exciting prospect when you consider that our initial 4-year mine life is only about 4.5 million tonnes of mining inventory. So this is a material step up, if mineralised, to the business. So something we're very excited about drilling. So just in summary, we have copper production just around the corner. We have some really exciting exploration opportunities on lease that we can convert quite quickly. And I guess with all the plant infrastructure, permitting, funding already established, Kanmantoo will very much be Australia's next copper mine. Thanks very much.